Hey! In Soccer We Trusters, the Trust Fund. What's going on? We've got a great show for you as always. It's just me and Heath because who knows what's going on with Charlie Davies. So hit like and subscribe, and let's get after it. Yes! What is up, everyone? And welcome to Frankie Simic's favorite podcast, The Soccer We Trust. I'm Jimmy Cream Cheese Trash Can Conrad, also known as Jim, here with the Heartbreak Kid, Hollywood Heath Pearce, and not Charlie Davies, to the surprise of absolutely no one. And we've got a great show for everybody. I'm back in my spot here at home from Australia. Absolutely buzzing about it. I left my megaphone in the hotel in Australia. I'm a little sad right now. Just want to throw that out there. We're going to talk about the U.S. Open Cup semifinals. We're going to preview the big matches there for the four final teams, all from MLS. Christian Pulisic scored his first goal for AC Milan. Dig it out of your nets. Bologna goalkeeper. Yeah, suck it, haters. America for life. Here we go. And then obviously some other players from the U.S. got to play in some big games. Josh Sargent scored again. Good for him. Timo Weah got the start. Weston McKennie had a good 45 minutes when he came on as a sub. We got a lot to talk about. Heath, though, how was your weekend, buddy? Great to see you as always.
Weekend was good. We had the storms down here in Southern California, or Tropical Storm Hillary, not Harry. Harry sounds like a different kind of name.
Better, actually.
I know. It's Harry's brother, Hillary, sister, Hillary. It did some work in Southern California, obviously more inland through downtown LA and into the Inland Empire. But we had some heavy rains here. So I was meant to be doing the Galaxy game. That one got postponed really early on until October. And then the LAFC game that was here this weekend got postponed till Wednesday. So the good thing is I'll get to go to the LAFC game, which will be fun.
That'll be fun.
Out and
that'll be fun.
So,
well, I'm glad you're doing okay. Everybody seems happy and healthy, so that's all good.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's talk about the U.S. Open Cup. Before we take any steps further with regard to our preview for Cincinnati, Inter Miami, and Houston versus Real Salt Lake, let's do a look back at our brackets, Heath, because you, me, and Chuck.
I don't remember them, but
I don't actually remember either. And also, we did these pre-Leo Messi signing with Inter Miami, so that has to be taken into consideration before we do anything. But I know that producer Alex has these brackets ready to go. I'm very curious as to who he's going to throw up first. I'm hoping that it's Chuck so we can make fun of him. Yes. So Chuck went first. He had LAFC versus FC Cincinnati. He actually had the Dynamo in the semi, so fair play to him on that. He had Cincinnati and Nashville in the other semi. So he got two of the four semifinalists. We can't make fun of him too much, but Inter Miami nowhere to be seen in his. Oh, I guess they're in the round of 16. Oh, that's when we started our predictions. So
yeah,
not too bad. I mean, I get
tough.
It's tough. I wanted
Having
to bust his balls a little more, but he's all right.
That was the Inter Miami Nashville was the final of the Leagues Cup, so it could have gone either way, but it probably would have gone a different way pre Messi or without Messi.
Very, very true. All right, so that's Charlie. Let's see who Alex puts up next, me or you. Heath comes in. You got FC Cincinnati in the final versus the Dynamo. So Heath, you're not actually too far away. You're 90 minutes away from this actually being true.
Yeah, I mean, the Dynamo are in a run of form right now.
But Salt Lake, well, prior to Leagues Cup, were in a run of form as well.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, Salt Lake were one, and the upside for Salt Lake is maybe it's not an upside. Is they were going to play two very different teams for their game against the Galaxy last week, and that got postponed, and then for this week, and now I think the upside, if there is any, even though they haven't played any matches in a couple of weeks, is that they'll play their best 11 and not rotate here, which I think they were going to be close to anyway. But it makes an unpredictability for who they're going to roll out in their semifinal matchup.
Yeah, 100%. We're going to get into those previews very shortly, but let's take a look at my bracket. I got it Cincinnati versus LAFC as well. I had the Dynamo actually making it to the semi. So me and Charlie were very similar, and I had Cincinnati winning it all. And that's if they get past Inter Miami, why would I put it past them to go and do it? But they did not look good this past weekend. FC Cincinnati against the Columbus Crew.
I'm going to be honest, like outside of obviously the curveball of Inter Miami in this one. And obviously LAFC was just wishful thinking, I guess, in the end, just because of the team that they were putting out on the field for those ones. But I mean, to have two semifinalists, did Chuck had the Houston and Cincinnati? Did he had two? Right?
Yeah, he had those two. Yeah, 2 out of 4.
It's still one. It's a sign of the consistency of some of these teams, because you look at 16 in MLS and it could be a crapshoot, right?
You know, I didn't notice this before, but Charlie actually had LAFC as champion, whereas you and I both have FC Cincinnati. So they got some work to do, though, this FC Cincinnati team. And before I want to get into their performance against Columbus Crew, let's just talk a little bit Inter Miami, obviously coming off the Leagues Cup. They apparently aren't going to have any hangover here. They, like Salt Lake, didn't have a game this past weekend. And I want to get into that because I feel like...
but they played Friday. They played Saturday. They played the Cup final Saturday. Yeah. Well, they just didn't play the league on Sunday.
That's right. But Salt Lake didn't play at all. That's what I guess I was referencing more. Salt Lake didn't play at all. So they get a little bit of a break. But Leagues Cup, in terms of Inter Miami, thank you for correcting me on that. They come in with a little bit of momentum. Sure, they could be tired. You think, oh, they're going to rest Leo Messi? No goddamn chance that they're going to rest Leo Messi at any point until he says otherwise. But Tata Martino, the coach of Inter Miami, came out and said Messi played every game of Leagues Cup, and maybe at some point he'll want to rest, but that won't be on Wednesday. He's going to play, and he'll start until he says something. He will play. He wants to be at every game alongside the team. And I love that about him. This guy's actually really come in and impressed me in a way that I feel like I'd hit my ceiling on being impressed with Leo Messi. But, you know, sharing the captain's armband, doing the trophy lift with DeAndre Yedlin, the previous captain before Leo Messi took over, him saying, yeah, whatever, I'll play on turf. You know, like just he's just letting everything kind of roll off his back. Whereas we've had other big names that have come to the league and they're always bitching and complaining about something. And so it's pretty refreshing, actually, to have someone of his status come in and be like, yeah, I'm game for whatever. I just love to play.
I agree. Having said that, like, I'm going to preface that with a little having said that, he has not played in the league yet. He has not done the grind of the league. You know what I mean? Like you're talking about two competitions where it's 7 games to a final, which is a lot, by the way, or 6, whatever it was. And then you have 2 games and you're a champion of the next thing, which again, it just puts the North Star within reach versus what it's going to be like game in and game out, where you'll probably get a rest. And obviously he's got national team duty, so he'll probably miss a couple of games as well on their schedule. So, I mean, overall, I'm wildly impressed, like beyond impressed with everything that he's doing and will continue to do. I just want to judge this in the start of October once they've gone through, like, you know, seven league games that are more about league positioning and playoff position. And there's not this, like, there's not something that's the thing about cup competitions and knockout competitions. There's something that's within reach. And with every win, you get a little closer to that. And I think that's a different level of motivator for a team and a group, especially with the struggles they've had in the season, than, you know, the North Star being a line. You know, that's a little bit, I think, of a different type of task, because it has implications that happen outside of your game as well than just like you control your own destiny. I mean, I guess you do, but like in a way you don't.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Based on averages.
Also, when he comes into the league, they only have 10 to 12 more games left. It's not like he's going to put 10 to 12 games in and then have to go to New England Revolution on a hot, muggy night and play on turf. I bet you his tune might change a little bit, or he might just have like back spasms, whatever the default injury is when you're not actually hurt.
I never had back spasms, but I see it happen a lot. And I wish that I would have had the opportunity to have back spasms once in a while, you know?
I love that. I love that. Well, we actually had a chance, or not me and Heath, but our morning footy crew had a chance to sit down with Inter Miami defender Kamal Miller to talk about this upcoming matchup against FC Cincinnati in the 108th edition of this U.S. Open Cup, making it the oldest tournament in the history of American soccer. But let's hear what Kamal had to say.
See yourself matching up against a Brandon Vasquez, as well as Lucho Acosta, who loves to make those runs in the pockets and in behind the center backs while you're dealing with it, Brandon Vasquez?
Yeah, it's going to be tough to deal with both of them. They work very well together, probably one of the better duos in MLS attacking wise. And yeah, it's always a tough game playing against those two. Cincinnati, great fan base. We know the stadium is going to be so loud, so we're expecting a good atmosphere. So it's just about the balance of myself, Sergi, and Sergio, trying to contain those two and making sure we don't let them do what they want. Got to be physical when you play against Brandon Vasquez. That's one of his strengths. When you let him finish his runs and feel like he can move wherever he wants to move, that's when he's going to hurt you. Played him a bit earlier in the year with the national team in the Gold Cup. Came on and scored against us, and yeah, so I know what to expect. I've played against him quite a bit, and I'm looking forward to it. It's always a good battle. He's a fierce competitor like myself.
Well, we appreciate that interview. Of course, some good insight there from Kamal Miller, the Canadian international. Also, we got Chuck in the show, Heath, so we got to hear the soothing sounds of Charlie's voice, and we can comment on his shirt selection a little later.
I actually thought you were going to bring him on right now, and then I realized what you meant. That he was. We had a video of Chuck, not in the flesh. Yeah.
No, he's not.
I do like it. That's a good one.
No, he's big timing us right now. It's too early in the week for him to show his face. He likes to be more later in the week kind of guy. When I think about Kamal Miller's thoughts, yes, Brandon Vasquez is a handful. Lucho Acosta, ridiculous how good that is, how good he is. 13 goals and 12 assists and 25 starts this year, which are insane numbers. And I think he's the front runner for MLS MVP, especially because they're 6 or 7 points clear at the top of the Supporters Shield. It's the best team in MLS through the regular season.
Yep.
So everything's pointing in the direction for Cincinnati. However, they didn't look good against Columbus, Heath Pearce. And Heath just decided to disappear. So I'm going to run with this until he returns. But they just signed a new DP, Aaron Bupensa, and he didn't necessarily look like he was flowing that well with Brandon Vasquez. Now, in fairness, Columbus were excellent in this past Hell is Real derby this past weekend. I thought that when he picked up, well, I guess I'm thinking Aiden Morris, when he picked up the ball and could take that touch and break the lines with his running.
Hey, sorry, Jimmy. I got kicked off there for a second.
No, it's all good.
I accidentally hit the command R, instead of the command T. I was trying to open up a new tab on my browser and hit refresh and got booted myself, which is was a nice little cleansing thing. But you're on a roll. Keep going.
No, I was just talking about the fact that their DP, who they signed right before Leagues Cup started, Aaron Bupensa from Al Shabab from Saudi Arabia, he's got a great track record of scoring a lot of goals. But I wonder if him and Brandon Vasquez are too similar, Heath. Are they? I mean, they played one game and it didn't necessarily look like they were flowing. And then defensively, when Aiden Morris in particular from Columbus got the ball, if he took his first touch and broke the lines and could run at that Cincinnati defense, they were all over the place. And what gives me some concern for Cincinnati is that Inter Miami is very good at that. Now, Sergio Busquets, probably not as mobile as Aiden Morris at this point, given his age, but his passing is going to help them break those lines very easily. And if Messi can get the ball and run at that back four, it's going to be curtains for FC Cincinnati. I don't see how they're going to slow them down based on what I saw this past weekend. However, I think the caveat or the counter to this is that FC Cincinnati got a game out of their system and said, okay, cool. We got to address a couple things. We know how Inter like to play. And if they can obviously execute at that level, then they're going to be able to do it. But Messi's just a different gravy, all things considered. Now, before I get your thoughts, Heath, we did hear from Mr. Pat Noonan, the head coach of FC Cincinnati, who gave his little breakdown of how they're going to try to contain Leo Messi and Inter Miami. Let's see what he had to say.
Different ways to try to stop some very good players. Obviously, a good coach. They all have a history of working together, and when you start to piece in players of that quality, you see the best versions of, the players that have been a part of that group, from the beginning. So they're in great form. We've talked about how we want to approach the game. You've seen teams that look to get after them and the challenges that you face when, pressure's broken. You see teams that have sat in a little bit, and really even teams that, are sitting deeper. You have good players with limited space that can still make plays. And so, I think a lot of coaches and teams have taken this approach of how do you stop, one of the best to ever play the game. And, that's our challenge on Wednesday. But I know our guys will be up for it, but you still got to execute in the biggest moments. And you saw it even in the Nashville game. I thought they defended in a really good way, limited, Messi's touches, Busquets at times. But in that one moment where the ball just bounces out in a way where, Messi makes an incredible play to score a goal. You look at it and you say, how much more can you do? So it's those types of moments where you need the right defending. You need to be able to get close to the player to keep him from getting a shot off. So, hopefully on Wednesday we have some answers.
All right. Good words there from Pat Noonan, kind of talking about the same things we're talking about. Can they execute? It's one thing to have a plan, but you got to execute that plan. And there's a great video. I don't know if anybody has seen it on social media where there's just somebody who's tracking Messi ahead of his goal against Nashville in the Leagues Cup final. And he's walking for the first 60 seconds of it. But then right when that ball gets over to their attacking half, you see him switch on. He changes his speed. He gets it at his feet, creates a little bit of space and hits the back of the net. And that's what Pat Noonan's talking about. Yet you can only do so much with a player of that caliber. So Heath, how does FC Cincinnati go on to win this game and ultimately slow down Messi?
Yeah, I actually think he made some good points about the way that Nashville played against him. Nashville had every opportunity. That was the first game, other than when I go back to FC Dallas, who were in control, just couldn't keep control. I think about, and that was just more because it was just wide open. But when I think about the way Nashville played them, they minimized Messi's impact in theory, right? Except you have to be a little bit more perfect than that. You have to have that next guy, when Walker Zimmerman stepped out to make that tackle, bounces off of him, falls into Messi's path. There has to be the sort of, you have to have almost that pessimistic mentality of like, what happens when he does get past Walker Zimmerman, who was in the right spot to make the right play and made the right challenge, and it didn't, right? Who's the next guy that's going to step up and make that play? And you've got to do that for 90 minutes, because you can see that even in a perfect game plan where your team executes in the right ways, it still takes just one half chance for the average player is a clear chance for him. And that's what it's going to come down to, right? I think in the 3-4-1-2 that Cincinnati can roll out in, or you call it a back five if you want.
Right.
It's going to clog up a lot of spaces. But the problem is if you watch any of those videos with Messi, he just drifts to the area where it is on the weak side, right? He's seconds ahead of where the play needs to go to. And when you have intelligent players on the field that know where the next pass needs to go, it's going to eventually get to him in a pocket, in a space, right? He's not going to play as like a winger or something like that. And so that's what makes it difficult, is being able to, again, spring out on in transition or in counterattacking opportunities wherever he is. He knows he never follows the ball. He never follows where the game is, right? He goes to where the game needs to get to.
Right.
And that makes it really, really hard to stop. So it's going to require any team that's going to beat them this year is going to have to be mindful of him, play a really good game, and then also be able to punish when you get the opportunities the other way. And I haven't seen a team other than FC Dallas, again, I believe it was FC Dallas, only FC Dallas, that was able to really find ways in transition with Velasco to be able to just take their chances. And then you got to add that defensive piece that doesn't leave room for the spectacular, because there's room for the spectacular at all times with them.
Messi, 10 goals and 4 assists in his 7 games for Inter Miami. It's pretty
Cincinnati
good.
Undefeated at home, though. Let's go.
Yeah, that's true. Undefeated at home in 2023. This is going to be a great game. And of course, it's going to be on Paramount Plus. We'll give you all that info shortly. But we want to talk about the other semifinals as well. Houston Dynamo versus Real Salt Lake. As we mentioned before, Real Salt Lake in terrific form prior to Leagues Cup, and then sputtered a little bit there. But they've added some pieces, as you talked about, I believe, in the last show, Heath, about Pablo Mastroianni and just how much depth they provided. They're having success despite numerous lineup changes and potential tactical changes, and yet they're still having it. So why change that? However, Houston Dynamo absolutely slapped Portland Timbers this weekend, which led to Gio Savarese getting fired from the Timbers. And Ben Olsen's got something special cooking with Houston, and they feel like they can hurt you in so many different ways. I got the edge to Houston. I know it's just one game this past weekend, and that shouldn't really dictate, but a current form should matter. And I actually think that Miami and Houston are going to get to the final, which means Miami would host that one. So that's something to take into consideration. Where are you on this second semifinal?
I mean, Houston, similarly, they've had a couple season-ending injuries to their back line, but they've continued to, like, their midfield three with Hector Herrera, Artur, Coco Carrasquilla when he plays on the inside.
They're fun to watch.
They're fun to watch, and they're a possession-oriented team, but they also seem to be okay when things aren't going that way, right? They can play a little bit more direct if they have to. They just have some different weapons, and I've tried to break down Ben Olsen a little bit to just get him to be like, yeah, we're a good team, but he's like, I'm not really to that point where I believe it yet. But when you watch them on their day, they're just they're starting to look a lot more like not St. Louis in their style of play, but in just the fact that they're just not a lot of weaknesses somewhere, right? You go back to the Leagues Cup, and I can't remember what his name is from Houston, the right back that Griffin Dorsey, who hasn't been starting really any games, forward turned fullback, and it's just sort of come to life, right? And that happens through opportunities, but it also happens through good management and good coaching that puts you in a position to believe. And so he's getting a lot out of his players because on paper they're still not the best. And I mean, Bossy is still getting a lot of his goals via penalties, but he's another one that's just active on the field. And again, when you look at a lot of their players, they're very rarely just put their foot on the ball, right?
Right.
In the midfield, they move the ball in their triangles, and then as they get up higher in the field, like their first touches are always on the go as opposed to like stopping. And it makes them really difficult to defend against. And they're a really good team. And on the flip side, Real Salt Lake, another team that I think are in fantastic form right now in terms of just over-indexing on what I think people thought maybe earlier on in the season. And Pablo Mastroeni is very much more into like the psychological side of humans, right? On the way that he talks about building teams and their belief in a lot of these like things that are much deeper than sort of tactics. And Jimmy, you've been on teams where you've had that and you've also not had that. And you know that when that special mentality or that belief that we can beat anybody at any time kicks in, it can change the trajectory of a season. And you're seeing that actually with Inter Miami, right? Now, all of a sudden, all these players who played really, really average are seeing, whoa, wow, I'm a lot better than I thought I was. Or now like that mood and mentality changes and it changes quickly. So it should be a really good matchup. I still like Houston to win this one because they're at home, but you can't write off like Ojeda or Chicho Arango or what was the name of the other signing that they had got this summer? Nelson Palacio. So yeah, they're both really good teams in this one. It's kind of more of a toss-up than I think.
Yeah, I could see it being a bit of a coin flip. Without Pablo Ruiz, though, for RSL in midfield, I do think he was somebody who was he's sometimes the glue, right? The unsung hero for the squad. And when you start to miss that piece, sometimes it can throw off everything else. But we'll see. I got Diego Luna. You guys know I'm a big Diego Luna stan, and hopefully he starts in this one for Pablo Mastroeni and Chicho Arango. I think we'll have a say in this as well. But there's just something about Houston right now that I really like. So I got Houston and Inter into the final. What do you think?
I'm going to go, man, I just really don't want to write off RSL, even though they got thumped in the Open Cup. In the Leagues Cup too. I'm going to go with Houston against, I'm going to go Houston, Cincinnati in the final.
Wow.
I don't know why I'm writing off Inter Miami, but I'm sticking
true to your bracket.
I'm staying true to my bracket. I'm not going to turn on it now, Jimmy. I got a chance to win $1.
I respect it. All right, we're going to take our first break of In Soccer We Trust. When we come back, we'll talk a little Americans abroad, including Christian Pulisic scoring his first goal for AC Milan. Yes, inject that straight into my veins. Let's go.
The man, the myth, the Messi. Catch Inter Miami take on FC Cincinnati in the U.S. Open Cup on the all-new Golazo Network and streaming live on Paramount+.
Yes, as a reminder, streaming live on the CBS Sports Golazo Network and Paramount+. As I mentioned before, the U.S. Open Cup returns with two fantastic semifinals. Leo Messi and Inter Miami look to keep their winning streak alive against FC Cincinnati before Houston Dynamo and Real Salt Lake square off for a berth in the final. Houston Dynamo won it back in 2018, so they're looking to do something special once again. The U.S. Open Cup happening Wednesday, August 23rd. Coverage begins at 6 p.m. Eastern. And again, that'll be streaming live on the CBS Sports Golazo Network, available on the CBS Sports app and Pluto TV. Also, fun fact, Ray Hudson will be on the call along with Dre Cordero. So that is going to be a lot of fun for all you Ray Hudson fans out there, like me and Heath, of course, because Ray Hudson is an absolute legend. All right, let's get into Americans abroad. We got to start in Italy. We got to start there. Christian Pulisic scores and has a second hockey assist for the first goal for Olivier Giroud. And I'm going to put my flag in the ground and say I thought he was the best player for AC Milan on the day. And that is great news. He looked active. He looked busy. He was picking up the ball in good spots, driving at the back line, looking to combine. He clearly has a great relationship and rapport with Olivier Giroud. And I thought that was on full display. And he scored an absolute peach of a goal. AC Milan ended up beating Bologna 2-0. And I don't know. I don't think we could ask for a better debut for Pulisic in Italy.
I fully agree. I mean, it was classic Pulisic performance where, you know, when we see him at times where it's kind of hit or miss, that was, again, just kind of going back to the point I was just talking about with the Houston Dynamo, like always advancing forward. Like his first touch was positive all the time. Even if it was a layoff, like the spin out was like knowing that the next pass is going to go forward and maybe come back to him. Just that activity and that confidence that like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be impactful. Not just again in like successful dribbles, but like I'm gonna be able to actually put up stats. And yeah, it's the best that I've seen him in a while. And I think you're not wrong, Jimmy. That was a man of the match, like an unbiased man of the match performance for his debut. We've seen that with him with change and with adversity. I'd love to just make sure that he, hopefully he's got a challenging enough environment that we're going to see this now game after game after game, build his confidence into something special. Yeah.
What's interesting in this particular game for him, remember he came on flying for Chelsea when he made the move from Borussia Dortmund. So maybe there is something about how much he wants to prove that he belongs and that he's going to be a difference maker. In some ways, I don't worry about Christian Pulisic in the first 6 months of the season. It's more as things progress and maybe when he has a dip in form, because every player is going to go through it. Will Stefano Pioli, the manager of Milan, still stick with him in those tough moments? It's something we didn't see as much with Chelsea. And I think that's going to be the big test for him moving forward, because we all know that he's got the goods. So it's exciting to see him get that. Yunus Musa did not dress, so obviously waiting to get his debut for Milan as well. But now pivoting over to Juve.
Which by the way, if you didn't know, was because of his red card that he carried over.
That's right.
So it wasn't
some
people were worried on the internet about like, why already not making the roster. And it was like, no, they spend money on him. He's just suspended, but he's back.
Yeah, he's going to play. But Reinders was good. And Ruben Loftus-Cheek was good too. So, it's not going to be easy for him to break in. But now let's move over to the other team in Italy, Juventus, that has 2 Americans on it. Team Away started in their big 3-0 away win over Udinese. They were absolutely cruising. It was 3-0 at half. And I want to say that's why Team Away came off at halftime. Excuse me. He only played for the first 45 minutes. And then Weston McKennie actually came on and replaced him at the right wing back position. And I thought Weston McKennie looked pretty good as well. Now we just got to find, come on, Maxi Allegri. Can we find room in the starting 11 for both of those guys at the same time? But really, really good performance from Juve, and not necessarily Maxi Allegri like, but I just thought they played on the front foot. And for those that don't know, Maxi Allegri is a little bit more conservative in his approach in terms of when to transition, how many players are going to be in that transition, and the commitment to go forward with numbers. And I thought they were excellent. And scoring early obviously helps unlock that. And if Chiesa and Vlahovic can stay healthy for them, and I bring those 2 players up in particular because if they're scoring a lot of goals, it's just going to make everything easier for everybody else in every other line of the field, including for Weston McKennie and Timo Weah. But good start for Timo Weah. I'm thrilled that he got to start in this one overall, Heath.
Yeah, it's huge. And obviously, it's like anything. You come out and you score in the second minute of a game, it's going to change the whole dynamic of a match and just throw chaos into any tactics for a team going into that match. You give up 1 goal and you go, oh, man, what do we do now if you're Udinese? And so, but overall, just fantastic. I do not want to see Weah and Pulisic and McKennie sharing time this year. That would piss me right. But he's got to find a way to get in with Rabiot or Locatelli or Moretti into that lineup. So not going to be easy, but time is time, and it's still Juventus regardless. So I'm kind of happy that getting early minutes and positive results and both performing well is a great sign.
What else can we ask for, right? And then down in Serie B, we have Tanner Tessman played and started 90 minutes in Venezia's 3-0 win over Como. Gianluca Busio also started and played 81 minutes in that game for Venezia. So keeping an eye on them to see if they can sneak their way back up to Serie A moving forward. Obviously, there's 37 more games to go.
That's it.
But let's now pivot over to the Premier League because Anthony Robinson started and played 90 minutes in Fulham's 3-0 loss to Brentford on Sunday. Tim Ream also started and played 64 minutes. He got 2 yellows and got thrown out. He committed 2 fouls. One was right before halftime, where he got a little aggressive in midfield and fouled the player, which is fine. But the second yellow I thought was pretty cheap. They ended up calling a penalty on the play as well, which felt pretty soft. But they upheld the penalty, they upheld the yellow card, and now he has to sit out their game against Arsenal this upcoming weekend. And that's a bit of a shame because obviously we know how influential Tim is to the team and his presence. And obviously when he went out, they scored another one. So not the best.
Tim Ream sucks, huh? Jeez Louise. 2 fouls, sent off, penalty.
I know. We're soft, though. We're going to defend him here because that was some BS. It's pretty light to give him a yellow at that point. And then in some other games, Matt Turner, he started and made 2 saves, got his first ever Premier League win as a starting goalkeeper.
Isn't that weird? By the way, goalkeepers, like, he got his first Premier League win, but he's been there for quite a while. But it's just the way it is. Like, you don't get a chance, especially when you're a team chasing a Premier League title. But like,
yeah, I thought
awesome.
He made 2 saves. One was very good, in particular. In Forest won 2-1 over Sheffield United. Got a late goal there from Chris Wood to seal the 3 points. Austin Trusty,
they have to win those games.
They need to win, yeah, especially the teams that are quote unquote on paper a little worse than they are, the ones that just got promoted. Austin Trusty dressed but did not play for Sheffield United. Maybe the result would have been different if he had. Just throwing that out there. Ethan Horvath dressed but did not play for Forest. Chris Richards dressed but did not play in Crystal Palace's 1-0 loss to Arsenal. And then Balogun did not dress for Arsenal. And then, you know what? I want to talk about Balogun potentially being linked to Chelsea. Now, Chelsea lost to West Ham. They're spending over $1 billion at this point. 2 of their former players, Giroud and Pulisic, scored this past weekend. I don't know what to make of Chelsea, but I'm glad that Tyler Adams is not going there. And the one thing I want to say about this, and Tyler Adams is making the move to Bournemouth, or made the move to Bournemouth, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this, Heath, and anybody wants to chime in, hit us up on Twitter at ISWT Pod. What I think is happening at Chelsea is, say you're a chef. I thought about this analogy the other day, and I want you to, but like, say you're a chef, and all of a sudden, the owner of the restaurant says, "Hey, we want you to use these 10 ingredients to start." And then you're like, "Okay, cool." So you start cooking, and then he's like, "Oh, by the way, I've got 5 more ingredients you got to throw in there." And the chef's like, "What? How? You know, like, you can't get any flavor going." And then right when you like, "Okay, fine, I'll figure out these 15." And then he throws in another 5 ingredients. And like, dude, I can't make anything with this. I'm done. Like, there's no flavor. There's no taste. This is an absolute mess. And I feel like that's what Chelsea is right now. So I'm glad that Tyler Adams is not going there, because I just don't know where he would fit. I know that he would probably win people over and get some meaningful minutes, but it just feels like such a dumpster fire that's not getting solved. And the guy can't stop spending money. It's insane.
Yeah.
You agree? Where are you? Like my analogy?
I do like that analogy. It's really good.
Great. That's all I wanted, was that affirmation.
Unfortunately, that's called being a coach, you know, like, but this is
that.
to the extreme degree, for sure.
But they're not allowing the coach to actually have time to settle in with his team and build something, right? It's always like they're adding new pieces. You're like, dude, I can't.
Okay. But Bournemouth ended up, surviving the drop as a result. Now we're talking about a chef, Jimmy, who is being told to make a masterpiece with only a few ingredients.
Okay, that's Bournemouth. That's the Bournemouth situation.
With a few ingredients, not a lot of ingredients. And he's got to go and he's got to make a meal at Liverpool last weekend and didn't. Has to make a meal this weekend against Spurs. Has to make a meal against Brentford, who are 4 points on the season and going to be one of the better teams in the league. And then he's got to go at home against Chelsea and make a meal. And then Brighton and then Arsenal. Jimmy. And then Everton, it's 6 games before they get a chance against somebody that's going to actually allow them to be like, Everton will be the first one where like, we might give you some points if you play well enough.
I feel like they've added a spicy ingredient here with Tyler Adams. However, he's not healthy yet. He's not.
And it was like, this is the sad part for me. And I love the move for him, because I think it's a good lateral move that he'll continue to get games. And he's at an age where he's just more and more games are going to make him a better player, right? I don't love like fighting relegation and adversity. The saddest part for me, though, was like the photos of him. Now there's just so much creativity around like player signings. It was like a dimly lit room, like a faded backdrop, and him holding the jersey. And I was just like, no, I don't want this. I don't want this. I want it to feel like, for me as an outsider far away, I want it to feel not even a big deal, like just bright and warming and like exciting and something around that. But it felt a little bit more like player signing, classic player signing, sign the contract, hold up the jersey, and like not in front of like I'm sure there's a bunch of other photos, but the ones that I saw was just in front of like this dimly lit, like, conference room. And I was like,
I understand.
But I hope he kills it, because if he does, they'll do well and they'll stay in the league.
Yeah. Yeah. So I liked your analogy, your counter analogy to my analogy. All right, let's move over to the championship in England, where Haji Wright actually started and registered an assist. But I don't know if he knew much about it. When he tried to hold it up in the box, it kind of got away from him, his first touch, and it fell to one of his teammates, who then slotted it. But whatever, it's just an assist. He played 79 minutes in Coventry's 1-1 draw with Swansea. And then we got to talk about Josh Sargent. The guy has been on fire since taking over the number 9 jersey, Heath Pearce. He scores again. He played 80 minutes in Norwich's 3-1 win over Millwall. I just think overall Norwich looks great. David Wagner, the head coach, or their head coach, but also an American who's bounced around a little bit. He had success with Huddersfield Town, if you remember, got them promoted and then got fired about a year later, maybe, or less than a year later, and went to Germany. Now he's back. And I think the championship just might be his level, but this Norwich team looks fantastic, and they've made some signings too to kind of elevate the process. But I'm loving that Josh Sargent looks like he's thriving right now, and I think that's a good thing for the U.S. Obviously, as we try to push to see who's going to become the second number 9 behind Balogun. I know that Ricardo Pepi is in the conversation about that as well. I don't know. You can jump in with that, or just wait until I say that Ricardo Pepi did not play this past weekend for PSV. And speaking of PSV, Heath, Sergino Dest is going to be on a loan move from Barcelona for the year to PSV. So Ernie Stewart doing some work there to get another American into the squad after Malik Tillman and Pepi and Sergino Dest. Do you like that move to PSV? And are you worried at all about Pepi not getting minutes?
I do like the move to PSV. That's for sure.
Okay. Yeah, you just take. I threw a whole bunch of stuff out there. You pick.
Yeah, no, I like I like the move for Sergino Dest to PSV just because he hasn't proven anything, and we know what kind of upside he has as a player, right? We knew the year that he had, it was like 19 games or something at Ajax, and he lit it up and like kind of set the world on fire as like a young up and coming star, and then lost his way for the last few seasons because he was in incredibly high pressure environments where there's no room for error. This puts him back into a learning environment, and the Dutch football leagues or teams that are at that level want to out punch their weight, right? PSV are playing in Champions League today, a qualifier against Rangers. And for a player like him, it's a good chance to get a ton of hopefully prove himself and get a ton of reps and get his career back on track to maybe see what's the next move from here. You know, there's a lot of players that have stayed at PSV Eindhoven, at Ajax for a number of years beyond just being teenagers to really get their careers going. So I think it's a great move for him. Pepi, he's going to have to keep proving himself. It's not going to be an easy ride. PSV are a massive club, and there's going to be pressure for starting spots and for young players like them. It's a great environment to be in because if they're not playing, they're going to train consistently. They're going to train twice a day, a few days a week. And I just like that for anybody who really wants to push themselves. It's a good situation to be in at their age.
Yeah, they're playing for Peter Bosch, who some people love that guy and some people don't. He actually did really well when he was coaching Ajax. He got them into the Europa League final where they ended up losing to Manchester United when Jose Mourinho was there. And that's really where he came onto the scene. Like, holy crap, this Peter Bosch guy can really make it happen. He goes over to Dortmund. Didn't last very long, 24 games there. Stayed in Germany, went to Bayer Leverkusen. Lasted a little bit longer, 108 games in total. Then went to Lyon in France and only lasted 60 games. And now he's back in the Eredivisie with PSV. He has something about him as a manager, but it doesn't always seem like if he can't win over his group right away, it's like they don't ever buy it. It kind of reminds me of Jesse Marsch at RB Leipzig, where he had all the components, but it just didn't, like, he couldn't get the group to really subscribe to whatever he was doing. So yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of curious on Peter Bosch overall, but I think Eredivisie's a good spot for him to be in, and I'm curious to see how he utilizes Sergino Dest and Malik Tillman and Ricardo Pepi moving forward. But yeah, I do agree with you with regard to Dest that I know it feels like a step back for him, but I do think that he needs to have that regular playing time, that confidence, that consistent confidence that comes from playing all the time. And I think that's really important, and not be, just was treated
and it's an
poorly.
attacking style league. It's an attacking style league. It'll play into his, that's why he stood out, like the 4-3-3 system where he's high and wide and good starting positions. It'll be great. It'll be great for him to build his confidence, put up some, hopefully some good numbers and kind of get his career back on track because he lost it a little bit, and rightfully so. There's,
he's
a lot
some of the biggest clubs in the world. Yeah.
When they go that big, and there's again no room for error or a managerial change like Koeman. It's a huge opportunity for him. It's a huge opportunity for all of them. Tillman, Pepi, Dest, hopefully Richards when he goes on a free after the Atlanta United season. Not Richards, Robinson goes on a free because I know he's linked there too. And then we just turned it into the PSV of Americas, or USA Eindhoven.
Yeah, USAV or something. We'll have to figure out a fun acronym for that. Also, keep it in the Eredivisie. Georgi Mihailovic came off the bench and played 16 minutes for AZ Alkmaar in their 3-1 win this past Sunday. He's another one that, okay, can he start to get back in there, be injury-free, and start to really regain those minutes? Because we all know that he's got a lot of talent. And then Taylor Booth still hurt for FC Utrecht. They ended up losing 2-0 to Heerenveen this past weekend. And him not being there probably is a big reason why. Okay, we're going to take our second and last break of In Soccer We Trust. When we come back, we got some guys that were playing in some other leagues, and we got some other stuff to talk about, including Dax McCarthy getting Leo Messi's jersey. I don't know how you feel about that. I'm totally cool with it, but we'll break that down a little bit more. So don't go anywhere.
Wake up to football highlights and news from around the world with the one and only Morning Footy team.
Rise and shine, football fans. Welcome to Morning Footy.
Start your all-day football craze with Morning Footy, part of the all-new Golazo Network.
Welcome back to It Soccer We Trust. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Heath Pearce and not Charlie Davies, and we're having fun today. And we're excited about some of the performances that are happening around the world for our U.S. men's national team player pool. But we haven't talked about Bundesliga yet, Heath Pearce, and we need to do that. Brendan Aaronson, first start. He is in, and Union Berlin wins 4-1 over, I can't remember who they've played. I had it, and then I just lost it. I remember thinking it was the
Mainz.
It was Mainz.
Yeah.
Mainz. That's right. Brendan Aaronson starts, and Union Berlin's 4-1 win over Mainz. And that's a good start for him. He didn't play a part in any of the goals, mainly because they got a big center forward who's banging in all the headers, had a hat trick. But I still think it's promising to know that he's already being trusted in the first game of the season.
Yeah, exactly. I actually wasn't sure if he was going to be a starter. He started a little bit in preseason, wasn't really like, it wasn't clear. And he got the first start of the season, and he's already talking about just sort of building that confidence again and that belief of what it can do for his career. So I think it's a huge one for him. And obviously the flip side of that is that Jordan Pefok didn't dress but didn't play for Union Berlin, and it's going to be hard to get time when people score hat tricks.
Yeah, well, I'd like to think with Union Berlin qualifying for the Champions League, there's going to be a lot of minutes and competitions to spread around. So that's me looking out for Mr. Jordy Pefok in particular. Now, the game that I was thinking about in terms of Augsburg in the 4-4 game was Borussia Mönchengladbach, because Joe Scally started and played 90 minutes in all of that game, and it was a 4-4 draw against Augsburg. That was a crazy game. Augsburg was down 3-1, I believe. They came back and made it 4-3, and then there was a late penalty in favor of Mönchengladbach to tie it up 4-4. That's Bundesliga at its very best. Scally not really involved in any of the goals outside of a ball getting whipped in to the back post. He gets out-headed. The guy heads it back across, and they get a bit of a tap in.
Sounds like he's involved in one of the goals then, Jimmy.
Well,
doesn't
sorry.
it?
Well, I mean,
what do you want him to be at fault for all four?
No, I don't. But I'm just saying, for people that didn't get to watch the game,
bench him.
And you hear 4-4. You're like, well, Scally had to suck at some point in that game, and he didn't.
Well, he did.
Just
at that one point.
But that one moment, yes, they
would have won 4-3.
That was the one thing that was my knock on Steve Cherundolo, is that he's 5 foot awesome. He's just a little guy. So if anything comes to the back post of bigger guys, there's always going to be a bit of trouble.
Hey, I played against Cherundolo in the Bundesliga, and I made a near post run, and I was going to beat him to it, and he shoved me straight in the back, so he knew exactly what to do. Being
no
a
matter
small
what the situation is.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. All right. Also in the Bundesliga, John Brooks started and played all 90 in Hoffenheim's 2-1 loss to Freiburg. Unfortunately for him on that. Kevin Paredes came off the bench and played 1 minute in Wolfsburg's 2-0.
Congrats on that win bonus,
Way
because that's how it works. You get in for 1 minute, you get more than you did if you didn't. So congrats on that bonus.
You'll love to see it. Paxton Aronson and a long time ago, U.S. men's national team player Timmy Chandler did not dress in Frankfurt's 1-0 win over Darmstadt. Aronson missed with an illness. So there's nothing there.
I saw that even on like who scored and stuff, it was just like a scratch and like a mystery. On live score, it just said like whatever the word they use is, which was like must have been a last minute type of thing of something. So.
And then we have Gio Reyna, who did not dress. He's still hurt with the foot injury in Dortmund's 1-0 win. And then if we go over to Spain, I want to give a shout out to Luca de la Torre. He played 84 minutes in Celta Vigo's 1-1 draw with Real Sociedad. And then Jonathan Gomez, he's in the second division in Spain. He played 22 minutes in Mirandas's 3-0 loss to Sporting Gijon. Conrad de la Fuente did not dress against Eibar. And then Scotland. Let's go over to Scotland really quick. Unfortunately, Cameron Carter-Vickers was out for Celtic due to an injury. But in terms of like overall performances, Heath, who are you most excited? Let's leave Christian Pulisic. That's the most obvious. But was there anybody else that stood out for you, either domestically or internationally? You're like, yeah, I'm really liking what I'm seeing from them at this particular moment.
I did like Luca de la Troy getting a start. He didn't start in their opener, and I was a bit worried about, again, being that role player. But to get significant minutes this early on in the season, hopefully that leads to more opportunities for him to it's a draw, but like hopefully it leads to more opportunities for him to be a consistent starter in La Liga.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Well, I think that's it. I think we did a lap around the world with regard to what's happening with our player pool. And obviously we're getting Champions League qualifiers coming up, and Champions League is fast approaching, which is exciting because I love that competition. But we got the Open Cup semifinals happening on Wednesday. As a reminder, make sure you check it out on the Golasso channel and Paramount Plus. But let's talk about Leagues Cup, because there was a lot of chatter around our friend, Dax McCarthy.
Yeah.
Post. Basically, hey, we lost, but hey, I got Messi's jersey, so I won. And I love Dax, and I don't have any problem with this, but there's a lot of people going, you know, why is he celebrating this when they lost and blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't know. I want to just say get over it. I don't. Like I think he was pissed. Obviously, it was 1-1. They fought back from being down a goal. They lose on the 10th penalty. Like shit happens. And at the end, Dax gets the luxury or the benefit or the honor of switching jerseys with Leo Messi, arguably the greatest of all time, in my humble opinion, the greatest of all time. I'd be thrilled. I'd be flexing on everybody as well. Maybe he should have waited a couple days if you want to nitpick here, but I don't have any problem with it. Where are you on this?
Yeah, I think timing is everything. Obviously, it's hard. What I will say is, I've known Dax since basically his first year playing professionally and playing with him in Dallas. Like, he is a massive, massive student and fan of the game, right? This is a monumental moment for him. It's not like he just, Jimmy, you play with a lot of guys that just play. And just play because they're gifted enough to play and they train hard, but it's indifferent. Like this guy is like a 20-year pro and a massive fan of and student of the game. And so like having that or getting that shirt is pretty hallowed ground because, there's not a lot of them going around right now. And so do I think the timing of it is tough? Yeah, I think that's probably like you're in a final to get your team their first silverware. It is a total loss. It's not a total loss for him personally. You know what I mean? Like you can understand the fan base being like, hey, like, did you not care? If you watched the game and you saw the game, you realize it was one of the best finals I've seen in a long time, right?
I agree.
Terms of either team could have won. It went both ways. The momentum swung. It wasn't just like one team has to stop the other team. And if they do it perfectly and then they score, they'll win. Like it went both ways and it could have been either team. That won that one in the end. And when it comes down to penalties and the way that it did, 10 rounds, you're kind of like all bets are off at that point. And so, but again, timing of it is tough. Like I guess what I'm saying is put this in the context anywhere else in the world, Jimmy, right? Real Madrid lose a cup final or Real Madrid win a cup final and the player from the other team does this with a Ronaldo or Benzema or whatever. I think no matter who this is, I think it's a sign of kind of the supporter culture that's been developed in the U.S. Like this would not be acceptable anywhere else in the world either. But I love Dax, and I give him a pass because I know him. But at the same time, if you're a fan that's like, dude, like this was a final and we lost. I'm not saying you got to be like depressed and like, turn your social media off for a couple of weeks and like do that whole thing, but it's less so the jersey. It's more so the caption, that tonight wasn't a total loss. Like, yeah, we lost, but like, I got this guy's jersey. That's to me is where I think the problematic nature of it is less so posting the photo.
In some ways, and I understand what you're saying. You don't like Dax McCarthy, but what
he was actually really good in that game too. He's been really good this season.
Yes,
I thought that he'd be winding down this year in his role, but it's been fantastic.
He's been very good this season. He has 489 appearances over his time in MLS with playoffs and everything included, which he's close to 500, which really speaks to
I'd be saying,
longevity
where
and
were
his
you guys the
consistency.
last 488 games, huh? You guys didn't have nothing to say for 488 games. Now
Well,
on the
also
489th, now you want to talk?
I think he needs to be judged on his actions on the field. If he was out there, kissing Messi's ass the whole time during the game and then got his jersey, you'd be like, dude, what's the deal? But the fact that he's out there battling, giving everything for the team, that's ultimately the sign of what really matters. And I think all of us would be, if anything, we're just jealous that he got Messi's jersey.
How did
Or
he get
anything
it?
else.
Did he, like, I want to know.
I don't know, actually. I don't know. But I do remember catching some flack. Remember we played Germany in the friendly in 06 before the World Cup? And we was 0-0 at half, just to catch everybody up, and we lost 4-1. We did not play well in the second half. After the game, when you're a little dejected, I'm walking off. I shake hands with Michael Ballack, and we exchanged jerseys. And I remember getting some heat. There's social media obviously wasn't as prevalent or anywhere near as prevalent as it is now, but I still caught some heat from a coach who said, "Hey, that's not a good look," because it was on TV. Like, it's not a good look for you to be changing jerseys with a player after a loss. And I was like, it was so natural. It was kind of like just commemorating the moment. And it was a mutual thing between Ballack and I. It wasn't like me, like, being a super fan. So I actually took exception to that comment, but
I got a Womayela shirt that game.
Who'd you get?
A Womayela.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. That's who I changed shirts with. By the way, but I got the same thing, Jimmy. I changed shirts with Steve Cherundolo after a game in the Bundesliga, and because I came out to talk to him after a loss and our team was like fighting relegation, like I was front page of the tabloid the next day, calling me what's the word is called Plaudertasche, which is like basically gossiper, and like attacking me for like being like, no, you don't get to be a human when your team is struggling and like see another American teammate and talk to them. I remember that being like a legitimate, like I remember being like really sad about that because like the tabloids ruled the world at that time and where I was in Germany.
You can't defend yourself.
Not always true. You can't defend yourself, right?
Right.
For better or worse.
Right. I gotta love Heath on the front page of a German tabloid.
It was the regional tabloid of Bild, so it wasn't like I was like on the country's newspaper. No one cared there, but where I lived, people cared about whatever was being said there.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, Dax, okay, maybe with what you were saying, caption choice, maybe not the best, but he got Messi's jersey in 10 years, 15, 20 years. He's like, yeah, whatever, man. I don't give a shit. I got the GOAT's jersey and we played a great game against them. And I was on the field and we competed and we had a chance to win and maybe should have there at the very end. And penalties is always a coin flip. So I got no problem with it. I think it's, as someone said in the comments, a nothing burger. So, yeah. And then also we're hearing that Sergino Dest is apparently starting right now for PSV. So thrown right into the fire. And that would be interesting. That is weird. But you know what? We got plenty of time for it. Must be keeping himself fit. And obviously, yeah, well, we'll keep you posted on that. And obviously, we're going to have another show for you on Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. We'll obviously do a preview. We'll break down anything that's happening midweek. And we'll cover what happened in the U.S. Open Cup semifinals. Again, that is happening on Paramount Plus and the Golazo Network. Coverage begins at 6 p.m. Eastern. That is tomorrow, and I'm excited about these particular games. I'm going to make some time to sit down and watch both of them back to back because that's what I do, Heath. I love the game. I'm a soccer nerd. But before we let everybody go, let's get into our final thoughts. Heath, what do you got for us? What's your final thought for today? What have you seen? Can you enlighten us in some capacity?
When I think about our predictions from the Open Cup, I also think about like just sort of the rights usage, how, U.S. Soccer was trying to get a partner, clearly, whatever, to take these on and spend some money. And then I feel like the people that did, like Paramount Plus, are now being rewarded for showing games earlier on in the tournament with getting Messi on the network.
That's what's up.
Which is exactly what you want. So it's pretty cool to see that. And hopefully that brings more exposure to the Open Cup, which we all know and dream of constantly being some massive thing, starting at the local level all the way up to the finals. So hopefully this brings some exposure to it and some eyeballs to make this thing a little bit bigger early on in the tournament, because you have some incredible stories at the local level that leads all the way up to the MLS teams and deeper in the tournament.
Yeah, the MLS team has won it every year since 2000. and another MLS team is going to win it this time around. But who is it going to be? That is the big question. My final thoughts. I love you, Christian Pulisic. I loved your debut, and I'm excited to see how you perform in the next game for Milan against Torino, because Torino, notorious for being tough to break down, pretty physical team, I would say, in Serie A. And then they got Roma and Jose Mourinho following that in Rome. So I think it's going to be a nice test for him to see if they can break down a lower block. And as teams become a little bit more familiar with him, how they slow him down and how he solves those problems once they start doing that, start stacking him up. So some great problems to have, because he's obviously a tremendous player, and I'm excited about his performance, and long may that continue. All right, that is it. I'm calling it a show, and Soccer We Trust is done for now. But again, come back and join us on Thursday live here on the YouTubes at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, or listen to it anytime you want on your podcast platform of choice. Make sure you hit likes and subscribes and 5-star reviews. We appreciate that, all the kind words. We appreciate your support and all that good stuff. So on behalf of producer Dest, producer Alex, Charlie Chuck Wagon, Davies, kind of, Heath Pearce, and myself, Trash Can, Cream Cheese, Conrad and Conrad, thank you again for listening, and we'll see you soon. Later.